Hello, my name is Greg Huey. I'm an American volunteer in Ukraine. I'm going to talk about call to action, what you can do to help Ukraine and Europe as a whole. Let's start with why all civilized people should support Ukraine. And really that's the same reason as why I'm here. I'm an American physicist, mathematician, and computer programmer, and I came to Ukraine with the goal of narrowing the gap as best I could contribute, narrowing the gap between what America should be doing to help Ukraine and what America is actually doing to help Ukraine. And I will do that by using the skills that I have to offer technical support to the armed forces of Ukraine. And I'm involved in some other things as well, working with the charity foundation Freedom Ukraine and working with the language sharing organization Balakun. But anyway, so why should all civilized people support Ukraine? And here's why. First of all, is because they're good and decent people that are facing a genocide. They deserve help. They deserve to not face a genocide. They deserve to not have their cities bombed. They deserve to not have children's hospitals blown up. They deserve not to have their land invaded, their people murdered, and their children stolen by a terrorist regime known as Russia. Reason number two is we should all support Ukraine because from a purely practical point of view, it's in all of our own best interest as well as helping Ukraine. So the first is ethical, the second is practical. Russia is a bully, and they have a long history of invading their neighbors, stealing their land, stealing their resources, and trying to ethnically cleanse or genocide the people. And what I mean by that is Russia views people as a resource. When they invade a neighboring country and conquer the land, they try to Russify the people to make them easier to control. They try to erase any cultural identity. They try to make them less likely to desire independence, to express any nationality or individuality, and those that want to, say, speak their own language or express nationality towards their country, they're murdered, they're imprisoned, they're tortured, that sort of thing. So those are the tools that Russia uses to try to control a populace that they've invaded. And they've been doing this for hundreds of years, and they're trying to do it to Ukraine again. And if they're allowed to continue, if they're allowed to win Ukraine, then some other nation will be next. Some other nation will face the same sort of evil. That's why it's in the interest of all civilized people to help Ukraine win this war, to put a permanent stop to Russia's terrorism and their genocidal methods. That's reason number two. We all benefit from aid to Ukraine. Aid to Ukraine is an investment in the future of Europe and humanity in general. So reason number three is a bit more abstract, and it's based on my hope that the human race will evolve and become better. We'll become better as a species, that we'll have a value system where human rights are respected, where people are allowed to live their lives without fear of being murdered or fear of having their country invaded, fear of being punished for expressing nationality, speaking their own language. Just, this is decent, civilized human values. And this is where I like to think the human race is headed. I think we are headed, at least some of us are headed in that direction. I think the majority of us are headed in that direction. But we've got a segment of the human race that wants to invade, wants to kill, wants to subjugate, wants to steal resources, wants to steal children, wants to enslave populations, wants to commit genocide in order to control people and treat them as a resource that is to be expended, not respected. And we have to make a decision as a species what direction we want to go. Do we want to support Ukraine and put a stop to Russian terrorism and this sort of terrorism in general? Or are we going to not support Ukraine and allow this to continue and allow values like Russia expresses to become a norm, to become how nations become accustomed to dealing with each other, to where it says it's okay If your neighbor has something you want, invade them and take it if you can. If you're stronger, do what you want to the weak. I don't want to see the world like that. I want to see the human race prosper and develop. I want to see a human race that's more civilized, that treats people with human dignity, that respects human rights, where freedom of expression is the norm. These are humanistic values, and I want those to prevail. And I think a lot of you do as well. You do it, you help Ukraine to help the human race become better. We either step forward by helping Ukraine, or if we ignore Ukraine and don't help them, we take a step back. And so that's the choice we all have to make. So these are the reasons I came to Ukraine, to help out, to do what I can, but they're also the reasons I think why all of you should support Ukraine. Well, let's start with, if you're an American, then we've seen recently that the current American president, unfortunately, Trump, is siding with Russia. He's supporting Russian values, and he's trying to help Russia. He's putting Russia first. For all the reasons I've talked about, it's in America's interest for Ukraine to win this war. America is better if the world is full of democracies that work the way America works, that share our American values. That's good for America. That's where America prospers. So if you want a better world for America, then you want Ukraine to win this war, and you want Russia to lose. Trump's decided he doesn't want that. For whatever reason, he's siding with Russia. He's doing what he can to help Russia. And he's doing a lot of other things that damage the American government, and he should be removed from office. So if you're American, write your elected representatives and ask that they impeach Trump. Remove him from office for the damage that he's doing to America internally, for the damage he's doing externally with respect to our allies, things like threatening to invade Greenland, threatening to invade Panama. He's doing harm to NATO, threatening to not support NATO, and now he's doing everything he can to help Russia and hurt Ukraine. So for these reasons, he's hurting America and he should be removed from office. Your elected representatives might be scared to do what they can to remove Trump from office. So if you have a Democratic representative, House of Representatives or senator, write to them, tell them you support impeaching Trump, removing him from office. If you have a Republican representatives or senators, it's even more important, because many of them, they also probably don't like what Trump is doing, but they are scared of what might happen to their political career if they support removal of Trump. So make sure they understand that even if you're a Republican, that you don't support the destruction of America and the destruction of American values, that you don't support abandoning our allies in NATO or abandoning a fellow democracy like Ukraine. Tell them that you demand that they support American values, and part of that is removing Trump from office. Make sure that they know they have your support when they do this. Help them find their courage to do what they know is right. If you're not an American, say, for example, if you're in NATO or another country that's been supporting Ukraine, then what you have to be asking yourself is, what now? It seems clear that while Trump is president, he's not going to have America support Ukraine. Well, that doesn't mean Ukraine loses the war. Ukraine still has a lot of support from Europe, from outside Europe, and we need to step up this support. So one idea that people have talked about is sending troops either in a peacekeeping role or in a role to make the peace to inside Ukraine to deal with or to counter Russian troops in Ukraine. So people have been talking about this. Write to your elected representatives in your countries and tell them that you approve of this. And I'll try to make a case for why sending troops now is the wise thing to do. And that's because without America supporting NATO, which is what Trump seems to be doing, he doesn't want America supporting NATO, then NATO is much less of a threat to Russia. It doesn't really present the same level of deterrence that it did. And Russia may see this as a limited time opportunity to invade another NATO country, say the Baltics, for example, or Poland. And they may do this at any time. They may do this at a time of their own choosing, when they're ready, when they think they have all the advantages. And so if you're going to fight Russia one way or the other, it's better to fight Russia when the time is of your choosing, when you think you have the best opportunity. When Russia is at its weakest, NATO may not be ready right now, but Russia is even more unready right now. Sending troops into Ukraine now to make a peace, rather than waiting for Russia to agree to a peace, is something that a lot of elected representatives may be hesitant to do, and they may want to make sure they have the support of their population before they do it. But this is not a choice between war and no war. This is a choice between war now, on your terms, or war later, on Russia's terms. Choose the one where democracy is most likely to prevail. And call your elected representatives and let them know that what you support, intervention to create a peace now in Ukraine. Send troops now rather than later. That's what I had to say. I hope everybody is having a good spring, and I'll make another video with more updated information later on. Thank you. Slava Ukraine!